They Are Billions is a real-time strategy game that's currently in Steam's Early Access program. Don't let the Early Access moniker dissuade you from picking it up though, as there's plenty of fun to be had. That is, as long as your idea of having fun is banging your head against the wall, much like the infected whom you're trying to outwit. They Are Billions is a turtling simulator that tricks you into feeling safe, while being tucked inside your cozy steampunk walls.
A message from your scribe. Scouts are reporting that packs of wolves are closing in on the castle. We must get the supplies stored.
They Are Billions has a lot in common with the Stronghold series, in that you have to fortify a town from a treacherous wilderness. In this case, it's a steampunk post-apocalyptic colony, and the wilderness is zombies. You must gather resources like wood, stone, and iron in order to build and support your colony. There are a few twists here, like not being in direct control of your workers, who staff the various buildings. But by and large, it's pretty straightforward in its mechanics. The difference here is the massive hordes of zombies that attack your colony at set intervals during the game. You essentially get a 2-minute warning and know the general direction the horde will be coming from, but that's about it. It's the sense of known impending dread that really drives my fascination with this game. You're already forced into a corner, so all that's left is to fight your way out. Knowing the big wave of monsters could appear at any moment fills me with an anxiety that I shouldn't feel behind my giant stone walls. They Are Billions may seem unfair at first. I could barely get past the first wave of zombies before succumbing to the infection, but as I played, I slowly unraveled the game's logic. Maps have natural choke points, so the key early on is to expand just enough to grab the resources you need, while walling off as many avenues as you can. Walls won't stop them forever, but it will buy you some much needed time. Discovering which technologies to research first was the next big step. Pro tip: research farms as soon as possible. Then I had that game where everything lined up. I had the stone I needed, the pastures to farm, and the narrow canyons to plug up with walls and towers. I slowly built up my army knowing that the first few waves were easy. Every wall was defended by a powerful ballista tower, and each watchtower had a creepy sniper in it.
Last night I dreamt of brains exploding.
Then the big wave hit. At least the biggest one I had seen. Walls fell, soldiers screamed, and they were torn apart by monsters, but we stood strong. The battle was over. There were losses, but we were still alive. After repairs and replenishment, I felt confident I could survive the next wave. But maybe I'll add another layer of walls just to be sure. Well, the next wave came from my weakest front, which I'm not sure is coincidence after about 24 matches. It was a tight place with limited options for walls and towers, but maybe it would be my hot gates, as it were. Historically speaking, it probably was, because despite my best planning and my bravest soldiers fighting to the bitter end, the walls fell and we succumbed to the infection. 2 hours down the drain. Naturally, I quit in frustration, and then immediately started a new game, because I knew I could do better, or at least get to the same point again faster and more confidently. That's why They Are Billions is so good, because it shows you that glimmer of hope just before it closes the curtain. The game does have issues you would expect from any early access game. Sometimes units will get temporarily stuck on objects in the world, and sometimes you'll get drawn a rough starting position. These things are pretty minor, however, and Numantian Games is pushing out updates at a rapid rate. Not only fixing bugs, but also adding in new features and units. I was originally skeptical of the game because it only had what essentially amounts to a horde mode on paper. However, that mode proved to be far more challenging and engaging than most complete games. Numantian Games has said that they will be adding in a campaign mode at some point, which is great news, because what's here doesn't dive into the history of the world outside of there be zombies and your hunters of badass armor. I'm excited to see this world fleshed out, and if they can take this format in an interesting direction. For now, I'm off to bring my next colony to almost certain destruction. But maybe this time I'll finally find out what all these oil pools are for.
Just tell me what to do.
Oh! No! They got me!
The walls are under attack.